Hey, this is Regina White Favors with Homeless Recovery Tips. And so the topic today is don't return to dead things. The thing about one, when you get out of homelessness, you are very excited. Or, for example, if you get on programs, say for instance, you've been homeless for a while and you managed to get into a program at a homeless shelter, and the program is going to be 6 months, it could be a year, 18 months, or something like that. And so then you feel good about yourself. You feel like you have accomplished something. Now, remember, the homeless shelter program is not necessarily the end goal of your life, it's just a tool. It is a place that you can get correction, you can self correct, self reflect, um, come up under authority, respect that authority before you move forward, and then think about other ways that you can move yourself forward into an apartment, maybe into some schooling, uh, returning to the workforce, etc. What happens though when you get even just a minor accomplishment, as in getting into the shelter and being able to stay there, or getting on program, you you find yourself maybe ego driven, thinking that um, I don't think you necessarily feel like you can run the world, but you feel, okay, well, I went through this hard task, so now let me reward myself. And people usually return to dead things when it comes to relationships, not other areas of life. So that means they may run into an ex. Here it is, they leave the shelter, they're going to work, they're at work, or they are at school, and they run into an ex from 10, 15 years ago. And so they think, well, I'm a different person today, so maybe my ex and I could come back together, right? And the thing is, that is a distraction, because you need to concentrate on the homelessness that you are still in. I always note that you don't need to pursue a relationship with someone if you are homeless. You don't need to even consider romantic entanglements if you are homeless. You need to secure yourself first. But what happens is, we think that because we are doing well in one area, that we can easily translate that into another area. So what happens is, we return to a dead thing. That relationship is dead for a reason. It ended for a reason. You just never went through a self-reflection process to figure out what the reason is. Y'all just broke up. You stopped calling each other. Maybe you stopped having sex. Maybe an ex came back into the relationship. Maybe you left. It can be a number of things. Maybe you moved, but you never sat down with yourself with a pen and pad, a journal book, and tried to figure out why that relationship ended. So before you even think about considering that kind of relationship, any relationship that's in your past should be in your past. But if you are considering it, you want to go through the process of grieving over it first, because what happens is, you think we're just going to return, and we're going to return to the way things were. Well, if you return to the way things were, keep in mind that didn't work back then, because if it did work, if it was a workable, productive strategy, then you would still be together. And so that's why you want to conduct, I always say, a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, before you make a romantic decision, because returning to dead things could keep you definitely distracted, and you don't know who that person is today. That person that you met in the 90s, here it is, we are in the 2022, 2023, 30 years later, 20 plus 30 years later, and you don't know what kind of person that person is. You don't know if that person is has good emotional regulation. You don't know if they get angry. You don't know if they've been married and they may be mad at their spouse if they are no longer together with that person. You don't know what their finances are. You don't know if they have kids. You don't know if they have relationships with their kids. You don't know if they have a job, or if they have job hop every 2 years. You don't know if they are living with their parents. And sometimes you may have to move back in with your parents during a setback, but then you need to set a task to move back out and keep your own place. You don't know if they've kept their own place for more than 2 years. It's telling when you get someone who's in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, who has never had their own place, or that person has moved from place to place, or that person has always lived with someone else the totality of their life, right? They have never had anything beyond 2 years of their own that they had to be responsible for, that they had to care for. And here it is, you are in a transitional season in your life. Taking that person on might be you taking that person on as a responsibility, because if you don't know much about them and they don't know much about you, they can say anything to you and you could believe it, because you feel that because you are going through something and you managed to accomplish a goal and get into the shelters program and you feel like you're doing well, then you feel like you are on top of the world and that you can encourage other people and you can help this previous person you used to know get back on their feet. Well, you have to make yourself a priority first. You have to get back on your feet. The shelter is not your home. Even if you can receive mail there, the shelter is not your home. So you can't go and think, okay, I'm going to try to make his life better because now I'm trying to make my life better. And I'm going to make her life better because I'm making my life better. And we're all going to be better. That's not going to work. It's returning to dead things. Whatever that person is, wherever that person is in their life, they need to take care of themselves. They need to secure themselves. They need to conduct a SWOT. They need to understand that they need to do better in their finances and keep a job. It's not up to you to take up the mantle, volunteer your time, your money, your heart, your body to making sure they are secure. That means you are going to become less secure. And what happens in these situations, you hook up with a person and then you think to yourself, well, I never really planned to stay in the shelter that long, even though they gave me 6 months. I'm going to go ahead and move out and move in with him since he got a place. And then we can work on this thing together because, we did used to love each other and we did have something going on. I don't really know what happened between us, but now, hey, we're together now. And then you get good in a relationship. It seems like it's going good, and you base everything on sex in terms of compatibility, not in terms of your mindset. You don't know if he has a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. You don't know how he works through challenges. Does he run? Does he emotionally run? You don't know if he's going to abandon you. Look at the carnage of his own life. Who has he left? Who has he abandoned? Who has she set up? Who has she gotten into trouble? And so returning to dead things will keep you bound, because then once you get into that situation, you have no other choice but to see it through. You can't easily get out because now you are in his house or you are in her house. And so you left the shelter before the time, thinking that you can reconcile this ideal that I'm doing well so I can do well in other areas. There's a season for everything. There was a season for your homelessness. There was a season for you entering the shelter. There was a season that you needed to endure in terms of staying in the shelter and remaining stable and planning from that setback. And then there was a season that you needed to plan your way into your own apartment, because if you move into his apartment or you move into her apartment, you're still homeless. Even if you are together, you're still homeless. Unless the person marries you or unless the person puts you on the lease, you're still homeless. Because at any time he or she can come home and say, I don't want you there. You got to go. How many stories do you see like this on YouTube now? People making decisions at later ages in their life, thinking that they got a boyfriend, and they sell their homes, pack up and leave, go to another state, thinking that they're now going to work together with this person, but not understanding that they are homeless. Unless that person marries you or puts you on the lease or puts you on the mortgage deed, you are considered homeless. And so then they get down there and it doesn't work out. The person who wants them to leave, they have to pack up and they don't have anywhere to go. They spend all their money, because you spend your money thinking that you are secure. You're thinking that you are protected. You're thinking that the person is going to be there for you. So why wouldn't you spend your money? You don't foresee that person kicking you out. Why would they kick you out? They ask you to come there. uh, they asked you to come there in the first place. That's why you need to secure yourself first. You need to keep your own place. Don't return to dead things. Dead things for you could always mean giving money without standards, boundaries, and expectations. Returning to dead things could also mean for you having sex before your time. Um, it could also mean volunteering your time before you are ready. Before, if you're in a season of recovery, you need to stay in a season of recovery. If there is an emergency situation with a family member, that is an emergency situation, but that cannot be a lifestyle for you because you are transitioning out of homelessness. And so, if you continue to be everything to everybody, while you are in transition, you're going to find yourself transitioning back to homelessness. So that's something that I want you to think about. Don't return to dead things. Don't return to old patterns. Don't return to old ideals, behaviors, strategies that did not work for you because they did not work for you. We know that they did not work for you because you're homeless, or or you were homeless and you're now moving into housed status. And so, if you're using the same patterns and strategies and techniques and tools, that's going to keep you homeless. That's going to keep you bound and sustained in a certain mindset. So, this is homeless recovery tips. Don't return to dead things.